Today we're going to look at how to solve two-step equations and show all our work. Here is your table of contents. I want to remind you that this is a multiple part video, and after the first part you'll need to move on to part 2. Let's go to the very next right-hand side page in our notebook, page 9. Here's the heading. And just as a reminder, we want to ask ourselves what's being done to the variable, and then we need to actually work backwards with inverse or opposite operations. And I want to give you a hint. When we work through two-step equations, most of the time you're going to undo the operations by adding or subtracting first. And I'll show you some examples, beginning with example A. In example A, we have 3x plus 2 equals 20. So when I ask myself what's being done to the variable, think about what's closest, what's being done first. First, it's being multiplied by 3, and then adding 2. Now, if we would work backwards, the last thing that's being done is add 2. What's the inverse of adding 2? Subtracting 2. And do that on both sides of the equation, both sides of the equal sign. And on the left, the 2's cancel to 0. All that remains is 3x. And on the right, remember we're working down, 20 minus 2 is 18. So now, what is still being done to the variable? Multiply by 3. What's the inverse operation? Divide by 3. So we show divide by 3 on both sides of the equation like this. Remember, don't use any other symbol. Use the fraction bar for divide. On the left, any value divided by itself equals 1. We don't need to write 1x, just x. And on the right, 18 divided by 3 equals 6. Let's go through one more example. 2/5 x minus 5 equals 7. What's being done to the variable? First multiply by 2/5 and then subtract 5. Since subtract 5 is the last thing, we're going to work backwards from there. The inverse of subtracting 5 is to add 5, both sides of the equation. And on the left, all that remains is 2/5 x. On the right, remember to work down, 7 plus 5 is 12. So we previously learned if there's a fraction coefficient, we multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal is 5 over 2, flipping the fraction. And when we multiply by 5 over 2, all that remains on the left, because these all cancel, is x. And on the right, you can multiply straight across or simplify first. I chose to multiply. 12 times 5 is 60, 1 times 2 is 2, and 60 divided by 2 is 30. So x equals 30. Please go on to video 2.